Thank you. Well, if everyone could please be seated, we'll begin. My name is Robin Harding. I am the Tokyo Bureau Chief for the Financial Times, and it's my pleasure to moderate this event today on behalf of the FCCJ. Our guest today is Mr. Hasegawa Kozo, the Chief Executive President of Global Dining, a restaurant operator which is well known to many of us. Most famously runs Gonpachi, but also Café La Bohème, Monsoon Cafe, and several other restaurants in Tokyo, which I'm sure many of you are familiar with. Mr. Hasegawa has gained considerable attention for his stance during the coronavirus epidemic, where he has continued to operate his restaurants past the requested closing times by the government during the state of emergency. And he's here today to discuss his lawsuit on the unconstitutionality of the new request from the Tokyo government to close his restaurants early. Mr. Hasegawa, and I should also have introduced his lawyer, Mr. Kuramochi Rintaro, will each speak for about 10 minutes, and then we will move to Q&A. So, Mr. Hasegawa, please.
First, we'd like to thank FCCJ very much for this opportunity to have this press conference. Let me outline how we ended up with this litigation. The beginning of last year, when COVID-19 broke out in Wuhan in China, we got very few but very important information, very beginning. Kids, even they get infected, they don't get sick. Young people normally get even positive, they don't have any phenomenon. But it's very dangerous for older and sick people. So the spread was very fast, and the whole world was in chaos. And for us, and also in business-wide, we are not having an easy time for recent years. And then thinking about like a state of emergency and all those things, it could kill our business. So I really studied deep about coronavirus. And then what we found was very simple, that again, those very fast information, like good example was the result. In 14 months from, I think, February 13th, the total number of dead in Japan is 9,058, which is on March 28th. And the reason why I didn't listen to the request of the governor of Tokyo, I explained four things. 1998 and 99 winter, the flu killed 33,000 people in Japan. And they didn't declare any state of emergency or anything. And also the second thing, the lockdown and wearing mask, I think it's obvious when you see the different countries. Good example is Sweden and England. Sweden didn't do anything like forceful restrictions, and England had multiple very severe lockdowns and everything. The number of the dead in 100,000 people didn't change. Texas and California, same thing, didn't change. So first time we obeyed halfway, and we lost the sales almost half. And then we ended up to borrow big loan just to survive. We shut down 8 restaurants and all those things. Then I thought things get settled. Then at the autumn, the spread came to be very powerful. But I thought it was very natural. The flu is always very strong in winter time. Most of old people in Japan, majority of them, not majority, but big number, they die in winter. and many of them are the victim of a flu. This time, instead of flu, it's a coronavirus. So when I heard the news that the government is amending the law with the penalty, and I really studied about law too, but I'm amateur, so I need help from attorneys and the specialists. Then I realized I don't want to be illegal. So from the very beginning, I didn't want to play illegal game. So what's the illegal in this new law? Then I found out, if you get order, and if you don't obey to the order, you get penalized. So when the Tokyo governor requested all restaurants to shorten the operations, this is so-called gyōsei shido in Japan. Maybe most of you understand. There's no background as a law. They just begging, but quite powerful. As a result, 98% of the restaurants listen to this. And for us, again, I said, this situation right now is not the state of emergency in the sense of the victim and the real damage. And I haven't seen anyone who are suffering from this virus, but I know so many people suffering so hard from the measures which the government took. Number two, the医療崩壊, which is like the hospitals is collapsing, and I couldn't believe that. The victim here is like 20 or 30th, the 1/30th or 1/40th of, let's say, United States or Europe, and number of the beds are so much. Why? I thought maybe the government didn't do their job right, and also all those complicated rules here, and also this virus is categorized second, next to Ebola, which is incredibly bothering because normal hospitals couldn't treat them. And also the support to the businesses, for us, it doesn't help at all. So the choice was to survive or not. And also, I don't want to survive doing illegal things or doing harm to people in Tokyo. And I truly believed that this virus is not dangerous. But high-risk people is older and sick people. And without doing any measures to protect them, they were shutting down. And in the other press conference, I said, it's like you got infection on top of your finger, and the doctor is cutting your arm from the shoulder. And so many people suffering in between. But they didn't treat this well. Let's say the caring home or hospitals, it's very tough to protect. I think no country really protected those people. That's why the number of the dead is piling up. So actually I was introduced to his group of the attorneys, and the call for crowdfunding non-profit organization. Actually just a few weeks ago. And I was disclosing all process of being requested and denied it, and then pre-order comes in a written form, and I wrote the defense letter to the governor, and then I disclosed every step of that in Facebook. And I thought maybe so many people feeling same way as I did, and many people suffering so much. Then I was introduced to them, and they wanted me to be a plaintiff, but I'm a merchant. I don't like litigation, but same time I was feeling really that things going on here is very unfair. And then actual order form came, And most bothering thing for me was the reason why they sent me the order was I was disclosing all through and influenced the people so much, and they were afraid that many other restaurants will follow us. So it says, is that denying the freedom of speech? I didn't do anything wrong or illegal. I just disclosed everything on Facebook, and many people sympathized it. And that's the reason why the order was sent to us first. And I didn't know then. We are the only 2 companies got the order. Next day, I found on the TV that there were only 27 restaurants picked, and 26 of them was us. So at that point, I have no choice, but I'll be the solo plaintiff in this litigation. So we sat and together, and Kuramuchi Sensei worked really hard to make the litigation, the documents in very short time. And last Monday, we presented that to the Tokyo court, district court. This is our story, and I will pass my microphone to Mr. Kuramuchi.
And hello everyone, my name is Rintaro Kuramuchi. Now I am the lead attorney representing Global Dining in the lawsuit to sue the Tokyo Metropolitan Government that its order against Global Dining to reduce its business hours and the special legislation which the order is based on are illegal and unconstitutional. It is an incredible honor to be invited to an occasion with such significance. Today, I'd like to share with you about what we are trying to combat from something different from a legal perspective. In this speech, I'd like to invite 4 navigators, all of whom are iconic Japanese writers. Soseki Natsume, Yasunari Kawabata, and Yukio Mishima, and Kenzaburo Oe. The key word is ambiguity. Let us be joined by Kenzaburo Oe, who won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1994 as the 2nd Japanese ever. In his Nobel lecture, Japan, the Ambiguous, and Myself, Oe accurately portrayed the heart of Japanese people and Japanese society. He referred to the great writer who won the same prize about 30 years ago in the same Swedish land, Yasunari Kawabata. Kawabata, in his Nobel lecture, Japan, the Beautiful and Myself, cites poems written by Zen monks to introduce the remarkable gentleness and compassion of Japanese people, treating nature such as moon and snow as comrades. Oe commented that Kawabata could only express Japan, the Beautiful and Myself through unshareable and introverted spiritual experience portrayed in Zen monks' poems, and through shutting out connection with the outer world, shutting completely as it was sakoku, or national isolation policy, and leading to Japan, the Beautiful and Myself. In his adjacent speech in 1993 at New York Public Library, this time, Oe cites Soseki Natsume upon describing Japan, the Ambiguous and Myself. Soseki portrayed Japanese as individuals, the agitations they faced upon Western individualism flooding into the country when Japan opened the country and modernized in Meiji era, which in Oe's words he describes as Japan, the struggling and myself. This is the same concept Jean-Paul Sartre rebuked as man is condemned to be free, and Erich Fromm discussed in Escape from Freedom. Soseki, in his distinctive tone, discussed the superficiality of modernization of Japan, or opening up. Specific details of his statement, please see my manuscript. Soseki condemned Japan's modernization as superficial and claims he has no good country plan, yet harshly criticized those pretending as if this modernization happened intrinsically, and arrogance in claiming Japan becoming a first-class country after the war. The critiques made in 1911, more than a century ago, still provides us with much insight about our society and forum today. Next, let us go on to the famous gentleman who staked his life around 50 years ago to awaken people to regain Japan amidst the post-war regime. Just 50 years ago, from 2020, Yukio Mishima, a writer who topped in a popularity survey for the most dandy man, above all the other celebrities and athletes such as Toshiro Mifune, Yujiro Ishihara, and Shigeo Nagashima, committed a suicide by ritual seppuku after entering the control room in the military base near central Tokyo and attempting to solicit the Japan's self-defense force to rise, but failed. While a violent coup is destructive of the Constitution, the manifesto by Mishima on that day is still relevant to us today. Specific details of his manifesto, please see my manuscript. Today, whether we can call ourselves prosperous or not, post-war Japan, especially the LDP government, has come together solely under the identity of economic growth and anti-socialism. However, now that neither of them exist, the party has corrupted itself into protecting status quo, making no commitment to any values. No fundamental remediation is taken for the many problems we face in today's society, not to mention the declination of birth rate and aging population and education, work style, tax and social security, a legal system, an imperial family system, and so on. There are only patchworks of ad hoc initiatives. Political power is corrupt with dedication to overglazing contradiction, protection of one's merit, thirst for power and hypocrisy. While decisions on fundamental issues are influenced by foreign countries, United States, will the current politicians or citizens be able to give a clear answer or rebuttal to this statement? In his interview 1 week before death, Mishima left a harsh criticism to the politics. The enemy is the government, the LDP, and all of the post-war regime. That includes Socialist Party and Communist Party. For me, Communist Party and LDP are nothing different. They are in fact identical as being symbol of hypocrisy. This also resembles today's politics in Japan. Whether it is LDP, Constitutional Democratic Party of Japan, Communist Party, it is corrupt with a longing for keeping its seats and positions, thirst for power and hypocrisy. Soseki, Kawabata, Mishima, and Oe, despite their standings, we can see that they have all combat with Japan, the ambiguous, and myself. Unfortunately, it must be emphasized that such ambiguity has been replenished and nourished by COVID, and still stands strong at the center of Japanese society in 2021. The fact that Japan, which went through opening up the country after isolation, civilization, and enlightenment, Bunmei Kaika, and 2 world wars, and experienced modernization and democratization, remain ambiguous at its core. As Japan kept operating under its Galapagos-sized closed rule, the country stands where it is today, manifesting the very concern raised by Soseki 100 years ago. being unable to achieve Western-derived political framework and values in an intrinsic manner. Under the COVID era, people of Japan were bombarded with requests for voluntary restraint and other exercise of authority with no apparent legal basis or extension. After all, people of Japan were merely wearing rented costume that is Western-derived political framework and have yet established the Japanese style of liberal democracy. What cannot be overseen is that both Mishima and Oe, who took opposite positions, refer to ambiguous constitution. When facing ambiguity of Japan, for better or worse, the backbone of ambiguity of post-war Japan was the ambiguous constitution of Japan. It is clear in 2021 that ambiguous constitution, which allows flexible interpretations of those in power, is unable to discipline us, the sovereign people, from having our sovereignty seized. Oe once described as ambiguous army based on ambiguous constitution. Through this case, we would like to also purse whether this ambiguous constitution can really save our rights and serve as a tool to better design the society. Lastly, I would like to finish my speech by introducing the closing statement from Soseki's lecture, My Individualism. And Soseki states that his insight on individualism may somewhat be of your reference, however, also close the speech, nothing, if there were any confusions about his lecture, it must be because he did not explain it enough or did not explain it adequately, and encourage the audience to not leave the confusion as it is and come to my house. I will try to explain to you as best I can. I believe that this kind of attitude is essential. We need to follow through with not leaving the confusion on ambiguity. Of course, in the world of today, we do not easily invite others to our houses, but we would like to thoroughly face the bad ambiguity. I use the term bad because in Japan, there are also good ambiguities. Through this case, we hope to face the ambiguities of Japan and make it as a step to unite with the various existences in this society that are not easily seen behind the veil or that we pretend not to see. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hasegawa, for your clear explanation, and thank you, Mr. Kuromochi, for taking this case to a higher intellectual plane than I think we thought we were going to be discussing today. Let me just ask a few, we will do this Q&A in Japanese with interpretation. Let me ask a few factual questions first, and then I will move to questions from the floor, so please prepare your questions now. So, first on crowdfunding, how much money have you raised so far from how many donors?
クラウドファンディングについてまず伺いますが、何名ぐらいのドナーから金額はどのくらい調達されたか教えてください。
ですね、今日現時点で、約1730万円、約2600人の方に寄付をいただいています。
As of today, approximately 2,600 people have donated 17.3 million yen.
And is that enough to fund this case?
この本件のためにということで、訴訟費用ということでよろしいでしょうか。I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Is that a sufficient amount of money?
十分な金額とお考えでしょうか、本件訴訟のために。
僕ですか。最初 we projected maybe 6 million yen, but it was so much far and much more people, 2,666 people in 1 week. And we are really optimistic about Japanese society. This is a new weapon for normal citizens to be able to fight against the authority.
Great.
Should this be interpreted into Japanese or?
No.
Okay.
And could you, Mr. Hasegawa, describe the business impact that COVID has had on your business? How much trouble has it caused? How many people have lost their jobs? That kind of thing.
Yes, the first, the state of emergency last year, springtime, well, you couldn't do anything because almost the whole country shut down, Tokyo shut down, and like Gonpachi, which was depending on foreign guests so much, our sales was like 15% of year before, for a long time, 15, for a few months. Then we didn't give up, keep on bringing in Japanese customers who normally couldn't get the reservation because of the too busy business. Now, we are not back yet, but we are about maybe 75% of normality. But last year was really tough. Altogether, our fiscal year ended in December. Our sales lost 46% gross, and we made a record high net loss. Operating loss was more than Junioku, 120 million. No, 1.2 billion yen. And then to survive, I was lucky. I could borrow the money enough from my banks, and also we reduced our the capital from 1.25 billion yen to 3,000,000, 30 million yen. Now we are categorized in small businesses. Then we are eligible to apply for the loan from governmental banks, which we did. So altogether, we increased the debt 1.3 billion yen on top of the old debt. So when it happened, well, this is the answer. I wait for the next question.
Thank you. How much did staying open, despite the state of emergency, help you? Did it save you a lot of money?
Actually, it really helped, because I didn't count on that. I just didn't want to listen to this ridiculous measure, which doesn't help people, making people suffer. But as a result, only 2% of the restaurants opened. So ones who opened with the normal operation hours, I think people rushed, and we were rushed. And in February, I feel a bit guilty because most of people are suffering, but our sales jumped 22% from previous year. And our net profit was pretty good. It's again world profit, a record profit of February since I started business 48 years ago.
Okay, I'm going to open up to questions from the floor now. Let me say three things. Well, four things. First, please identify your name and affiliation. Second, questions, not speeches. Third, restrict yourself to one question, please. We will come back to you if there is time. And fourth, please keep your questions on topic. This is a press conference about COVID-19 and global dining's response to that. It is not an opportunity to ask about unrelated matters. With that, who has a question from the floor? Patrick.
Okay, my name is Patrick Walter, German newspaper, Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. I have several questions, but I restrict myself to one. Did you have ever any cases of COVID infections happening in your restaurants, any clusters happening in your restaurants over the last year since the beginning of the pandemic?
ドイツの新聞のパトリックと申しますけれども、1年前にパンデミックが始まって以降、御社の店舗、レストラン、1店でもクラスターないし、あるいはコロナの陽性者の件数というものは一度でも出ましたでしょうか。
We didn't have any cluster case, but our employees, including part-timers, we have maybe altogether maybe close to 6, 7 people was positive and in quarantine, but nobody got seriously sick. And also, I don't know, like more than a year ago, my assistant got high fever, and at that time Japan was ready to have an Olympic. She called the health department, and they asked her to wait like 4 days. If temperature didn't go down, then we're going to take care of you. Then after 2 days, her fever went down. The third day, she came back. So I bet you had a COVID-19. You recovered. I don't know how many times I have been positive, but I never got sick. But this is the reality. And we didn't have any cluster.
Is that okay, Patrick? You want to follow up? Yeah.
Patrick Welter once again. Are there any, when you started the lawsuit, have you been contacted by any other companies, restaurants, that would like to join your suit?
本件訴訟を提起されて以降、他社さんから他社のレストランチェーンなどとから連絡があって原告団に入りたいという要請を一度でも来ましたでしょうか。
直接的、I didn't have the direct request or the approach from other businesses, but on the internet, quite many restaurateurs were responding to me, and some of them were saying that they were operating longer, and if they get the order, maybe we can get together. But as a result, nobody got the order except for one. So we didn't have any chance to get together.
Thank you. The lady in the second row.
Oops. Haruko Watanabe, HKW. Hasegawa-san, you are... Oops. I hold it this way, yeah. You are the hero of the restaurant industry, but now you are hero of Japanese citizens. I think the Tokyo bureaucrat won't let you go free. I have one big question and one small question. Can I ask two together?
No.
No, okay. Well, I ask one bigger question. What do you think is the impact of your action to the Tokyo metropolitan election?
For the election, I don't know, but I was approached by a few the legislator from the Metropolitan Congress. And but again, the reason why I could speak out like this was, I'm strange. I have very few friends. I don't like any tie with authority. I never get tempted to get. So there are a few people like me in Japan too. But election-wise, well, this is political. I don't want to get into this, but Koike-san had a mistake, and then she was stabbed by the governor of Kanagawa Prefecture. She was manipulating them. Then she was. Everybody felt now she was using this COVID-19 as a tool to play her power game and election. So I think there's certain effect in the coming metropolitan election, but I don't know how.
Yeah, but follow-up question is fine. To be clear, I welcome follow-up questions, but it's better if we have one question, one response.
Maybe it's already half a question. A Tokyo bureaucrat won't let you go freely. You may expect some mean ijime from Tokyo bureaucrat. And what kind of ijime are you expecting? Are your kitchen clean? No sanitary problems? Or your employee has a proper visa or Japanese citizen?
Actually, I'm working.
Just a second. Let's translate the word ijime
Yes,
just in case.
ijime is bullying.
Yeah, bullying.
Bullying.
Actually, the restaurant business itself being abroad all the time. I mean, but again, I work with, long time ago I was expanding and I had a small fire, multiple small fire, which didn't make real fire. And then I was public already. And I was checked by Shobocho, like a fire department. And it was really tough because I did many things illegally. But the reason why I did that was there was no penalty. So this is the typical Japanese law. They set the law, but they don't set the penalty. Just like a speed ticket, if you don't need to pay fine, I think the risk is getting much higher. I was called, visited the central office. I'm just explaining how I worked with the bureaucrat. And I find out the people working there is not bad people. They were just working in a big machine. Sometimes they look like a machine. But I was told, Hasegawa-san, we are not trying to make you bankrupt. But you are lucky if those things gets bigger and if it damages to human life or anything, you could never survive. There's none. The businesses who had a fire and people died, they all vanished. So he said, you're lucky. I know it's tough, but I have been going to a restaurant, and actually we like your restaurant. So please ganbatte and survive. And
That means you have no sanitation problems or no
Now-
illegal visa among your employees?
I don't have any. All my foreign staffs are with the official visas or married to Japanese ladies or Japanese men.
Okay, thank you very much. 頑張って。
はい、ありがとうございます。
Okay, thank you. Do we have any more questions from the floor? Yes.
Thank you. Rocky Swift with Reuters. I was wondering if you could comment today on some media reports that some 23 health ministry employees were out drinking quite late at night, and today the health minister apologized for that. So from your perspective, do you think that constitutes a kind of a hypocrisy, or perhaps you can commiserate with these employees for wanting to go out late at a restaurant such as you're operating? Thank you.
ロイターのもので、ちょっとお名前は伺いそびれたんですけど、ロイター通信のもので、つい先日のマスコミ報道で、23名厚労省の職員が夜遅く会食をしたという事実が明るみに出まして、今朝ほどでしょうか、厚労大臣が謝罪をされております。これもまた欺瞞行為と見られますでしょうか。そして場合によっては会食をした人に対して逆にその同情を共感を持たれるということもありえますでしょうか。
I knew many of them, like legislators or the scientists working for the government, knew what this virus is. They shared the feeling with me. Then I was curious why this the stream of like scaring people so much. It's all because of the maybe election or power game. They like to please the older people who are scared, whatever. So they don't know. They don't think it's really dangerous for them to go out and drink. But it's a hypocrisy. They shouldn't support this direction if they don't feel that. But in Japan, なんだっけ、日本語忘れちゃった。何圧力だっけ？同調圧力。Do you understand 同調圧力？
Pressure to assimilate.
Yes. And when you are in a group and majority of the group going one direction, nobody say no. They just follow, just like sheep. Like I used to love the series of Rawhide, Stampede. One bull started running and everybody following after. Even the political parties not without power, they are the worst than Jiminto. And at least the Jiminto watching both the corona and business, and they wanted to balance out. But Koike-san doesn't have that balance. That's why so many people pissed with, upset with her.
There are several more questions from the floor, but one I want to ask first because I think it's very important. Why do you think that you can judge what's safe for coronavirus? Surely this is a job for experts.
The result, I said, 1998 and 1999 winter, flu killed 33,000 people. And this time, in 14 months, 9,038 people died. And average death age was 79. And 86% of the dead are over 70. And all those numbers, more than any proof, it's so clear that this is not that serious thing.
But around the world, many hundreds of thousands of people have died. And with respect, should you be making that decision, or is it a job for elected politicians?
I don't want to get into that because there are so many now conspiracy theories going on, and I don't know what's right or not. But one thing is, my brother passed away last year, and her wife found he was dead, and then his body was taken to check if he was positive or not. And if he was positive, he died from the corona, which is not true. He was suffering from diabetes for a long time. So you don't know exactly how many people really died from the COVID-19. And there are so many now informations. I don't know where to believe, but one thing is even PCR test, it can be so manipulative. If you make it, how do you call that? 35 or 54, when try to find the tip of the virus, you can make everybody so positive. So I don't know, but I know the result in Japan, which is very fortunate.
Okay, let me go back to the floor. Is it Teddy? I can't see from the mask. Okay.
Teddy Jimbo with the Video News. I think I'm going to ask questions in Japanese, if I may, and have a translator translated into English. 長谷川さんの、ビデオニュースの神保と言います。よろしくお願いします。すみません、ちょっと訴状をまだ私拝見してないので、もしかすればそれを見ればいいだけのことかもしれないですが、今回ですね、通知書の中に結局グローバルダイニングが従わない旨を発信したことが含まれていたと。で、記者会見なんかではそれの表現の自由のお話を、今回損害賠償の中に含まれていて、ちょっとその部分についてですね、今回、シングルアウトされたグローバルダイニングがなぜ狙い撃ちされたのかっていうことの中に、発信した自分がそういうことを発信したことが理由に含まれていて、それが表現の自由の、この場合憲法21条になると思いますが、そこに、抵触するのではないかという部分は、今回長谷川さんとしてはですね、どれくらいウエイトを置いているのか、つまりレストランとしてどれだけリスクを置いたのかとか、あるいはそういう本来コロナに関連したメインの問題と、もう一つ、かなりこれの本質的な問題としてですね、そういうことを発信をすることが問題であるとされたということは、かなりちょっと質的にも違う次元があると思うので、そこのお考えを聞かせてください。
We have translation of the question first.
This is Jimbo from Video News. I haven't looked at the complaint yet. Maybe it's all in the complaint. But one question. In the notice from the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, one of the reasons cited was the fact that you or your company had spoken out, had communicated about the fact that global dining will not follow the order, and this, of course, pertains to freedom to express, freedom of expression, which I would like to hear about. But the fact that global dining was singled out due to several reasons, one of which was the fact that the company spoke out. And freedom of expression, of course, is one of the key articles in the Constitution. So how much weight did you place on that aspect as opposed to the risks that you will bear as a restaurant chain? The fact that you spoke out, how much weight did you place on that?
じゃあ英語で。
どっちでも。
The weight on that is one of the two major things. The other one is next day I found out we were targeted. There are 26 restaurants out of 27 which got the order were ours. So two things, freedom of speech, and the second thing is equality under the law. These are two very important basic rights of human being in democracy. And I grew up in a democratic ambience and education system. I was born in 1950, and maybe United States was really pushing Japan to have democratic value, and we grew with that. And for me, if I just pass it, when I'm dying, I will regret. It's not money, and I agree with him. It's not for money. It's, for me, the major thing is I don't want to keep freedom of speech and equality under the law. And for me, as an amateur, I clearly sense that someone violated that. That's why I almost forced to be a single plaintiff. I'm a merchant. I don't want to do this. I'm an entertainer.
Okay. Ethan? Are there any more questions? Patrick again.
Patrick Walter, Hasegawa-san, what is your explanation? I mean, looking from a Western standpoint, it's quite puzzling to see that most restaurants in Japan over the last year followed the order, even if there was no penalty. So what is your explanation? Why is it that a system like that works in Japan? And why is it that if such a system works, why is it that the government introduced these penalties over the last months?
Okay. It's my understanding. But I believe this country right now is most pure racial nation. Most of people here, citizens, thinking they're Japanese and sharing same culture. And this is a huge village. Everybody expects to be same way. This is the beauty of Japan, maybe. Many foreigners like this country, but the weakness of this culture too. Then weakness was proven before the war. Before the let's say, World War I before ended, Japan enjoyed so much prosperity from World War I. They are producing and selling to the world. And then that time there was a democracy. We call Taisho, which is era, democracy. In a matter of just 10 years, 12 years, all those people supporting the democracy turned to be the right wing because economically Japan was suffering. That Kanto Daishinsai, 21, 21, the stock corruption after the war. 23rd, Kanto Daishinsai. 27th, Japanese the financial crisis. And the 29th, World Depression started. And in 30s, Japan, the farmer, my father was from country. The poor the farmers were selling their daughters to whorehouse. And girls were volunteering to go to support her family. And then her brothers were in military. And lots of coup d'etat and everything. And everybody who was left-winger to the right-winger supported the invasion in China and everything. And except for maybe Isoroki Yamamoto, nobody had a question to jump into the war with the United States. He was the only one who knows that Japan will be destroyed if they had an alliance with the Nazis, Hitler, and Italy. The Sangoku Dome, the alliance. And then that was a very dangerous thing. Once switch was turned on, Japan can be one. And I felt that in this case also. Everybody follows. Scary. They don't think. They follow. And they were educated that way. If you think and asking why to the teachers, you're a bad boy, and I was.
Yes, Teddy again.
すみません、ビアニストの神保です。もう一点だけ、今回、長谷川さんはお金の問題ではないということで、104円だけということなんですが、政治家だと、家庭の問題には答えられないと言われちゃうかもしれないんですが、もし今回ですね、その営業、短縮、あるいは要請と同時に、十分な保証があれば、これは、応じる余地があったのか、それとももうこれはお金の問題ではないんで、そもそも根拠が希薄なんで、それに応じる必要がないとは考えるのか、今回、大きな問題として、保証が明らかに不十分だということはあると思うので、その点、もしよければお願いいたします。
One more question, if I may. Regarding the fact that you're only seeking 104 yen per a restaurant in the damages suit, let me ask you a hypothetical question, maybe not acceptable to a politician, but nevertheless, if together with the order to reduce business hours, if the government is to provide adequate compensation, would you have accepted that? Or do you think there is no basis to begin with, so you would not have accepted that either way?
Yes, the support wasn't good enough. That's one thing. But the other thing is, it wasn't the order. In America, the policy, which I didn't agree, but it was mandate. And if it's the legal thing, and if we were the part of the society, we obey. And in the United States, they had to axe, do this, and if you don't do that, police come and shut down. But at the same time, they did their duty. They offered reasonable support. Like we have a small company there. We took a PPP, payroll protection program, and application wasn't easy, but we could do it. And as soon as we applied, 2 weeks after, money was wired to our checking account, which helped us not to fire our employees. So if Japan did the same thing, I obey. And from the beginning, I didn't want to be illegal.
Okay, thank you. In a minute, it will be last chance for questions from the floor, so if you have any, please consider them. I have one more to Kuramochi-san. Maybe this is hard to answer, but is this a winnable lawsuit, or is this just a protest? Do you think there are grounds to actually win this lawsuit?
ですね、日本語の言い方で試合に負けて勝負に勝つっていうのがあるんですけども、もちろん訴訟には勝つつもりでやっていますが、やっぱりその中で通っているですね、憲法違反であるとか、今長谷川社長がおっしゃった民主主義の話であるとか、そういうことを問題提起することがまず第一の目的で、訴訟にはもちろん勝つつもりで戦略を立てていますが、まずはその中身の勝負に勝つということを重視しています。
There's a Japanese expression, sports expression, lose the match but win the struggle or the fight. We intend, of course, win the lawsuit, but the weight is placed on, priority is placed on the unconstitutionality of the case and democratic ideals, as Mr. Hasegawa just spoke about. And once again, we are intending to win this lawsuit, and we're strategizing accordingly. But the weight, initial weight, is placed on winning the struggle or the actual competition, not the individual match.
Okay, thank you. So this is your last chance for questions. One more from Rocky. Anybody else? We'll take any remaining questions together. No, I don't. Oh, and Patrick. So we'll have a question from Rocky and a question from Patrick.
Thank you, Rocky Swift with Reuters. My question is similar to one that Robin asked a little bit earlier. Hasegawa-san, you are an expert in restaurants and merchants and merchandising and entertainment, as you said. But what would you say to infectious disease experts, such as Omi-sensei or Oshitani-sensei, Nishiura-sensei, who the latter two have spoken here in the past year, who say that keeping restaurants open at regular business could endanger lives? And from their expert opinion, that's what they say. So what's your point of view to counter them as infectious disease experts?
Yes, I don't know those doctors, but I know few whom I got acquainted with over the Facebook or Messenger. And one of them is the Mayo Kyoju in one substantial university, and he was specialist. And then I put it, where they read my information, message to the Tokyo government, and they, well, again on the internet, those specialists said, what Mr. Hasegawa was saying, totally right. The reason why, again, this is very complicated issue, but the reason why Japan or Japanese or Eastern Asian dead total is so much less than the rest of the world. Again, there are a few controversial things, but two things maybe it's true. Like our cold, which we get every winter, is coronavirus, which is kin or relatives of this COVID-19. So basically we had certain amount of immunity. And the two, when the COVID-19 broke out in Wuhan, they say, it's already proven, they said, the initial COVID-19 came to Japan very early, and type was K and S, and both of them were very weak. But K had the immunity, immunity against K worked. G-type, which developed and got the more poisonous, more like dangerous. And when they came back to Japan, Japan had already immune system to K, so it worked to G pretty well. So those things were really reasonable. And like all those the so-called specialists on the government side, they don't say anything like that. They just said number of the infected people, and they mixed up infection and positive. I don't know if they understand or not, but they just put all number together and threatening people. And just very simple. Same year, 2019, December, actually flu was very powerful. And suddenly I had to shut down, but there's a big our restaurant called G-Zone in Gonpachi there. In one day in December, I had 11 young people couldn't come to work because of flu. 11 people in one day. And it was hard because we had to operate. We have to open the restaurant. And all of a sudden, January, flu vanished. And maybe COVID-19 came. They were spread so much faster. And then it was, the flu was controlled because of the virus, how to say, kansho, virus kansho.
Interference, virus interference.
Yes. And all those things, I live normal the life, and I didn't feel any threat from this virus. I don't know anyone who got really sick or died, except for people in the really serious condition or very abusive people.
So to be clear, your answer to Omi-sensei or Oshitani-sensei would be, other experts disagree, so I
didn't hear them, so I cannot say that.
尾身先生や吉谷先生に対する社長の反論としては、他の専門家はそう思っていないということでよろしいでしょうか。
他の多くの専門家がtheir voice don't reach, but many people are saying same thing.
many experts whose voices are unheard are saying the same thing as I am. And one Japanese word he mentioned previously was Professor Emeritus.
Okay, thank you. Patrick, last question. We need to finish.
Patrick Walter, Frankfurter Allgemeine. How far is your lawsuit is based on freedom of speech and equality of treatment? But now you are making all these arguments that COVID as such is not as dangerous. So would you be in favor for giving up all opening hour restrictions for restaurants in Japan in this time? Would you be in favor for opening the border to let foreigners come to Japan to visit the Tokyo Olympics?
So I'm sorry, I need your help.
表現の自由と法の下の平等が重要だと先ほどご発言されましたけれども、またコロナについてのお考えを先ほど伺っての質問になりますが、そうしますと社長の考えでは全てのそのレストラン業界に対する制約を解除して通常の営業時間に戻して外国人を来日させて予定通りオリンピックを開催した方がしても良いとお考えでしょうか。
Medically, I think you can do that, but politically, maybe you cannot do that. It's not only Japan. Most of countries' leaders, they are together with the Japanese government. And I don't know if they are really scared or they make people scared, I don't know, but already it's done. Like a foreign audience cannot come. So it's politics, I don't want to get into that, but if I were but Olympic, I experienced Tokyo Olympic in 1964. It was beautiful. I was so excited. I was a young boy. I was 14. But now, Olympic, I don't get so excited. It's commercial, and it's so political. It's not so pretty. But anyway, I'm derailing. Sorry.
Okay, we're out of time. So I hope you will join me in thanking Mr. Hasegawa and Mr. Kuramochi for their very interesting presentations. As is our custom, I would like to give Mr. Hasegawa a year's honorary membership of our club. Since he has 40 restaurants of his own, he may not want to come and dine with us, but I hope he will come sometime. So thank you, Mr. Hasegawa.
Thank you so much.
And please join me in the round of applause. Thank you. Thank you both. We're adjourned.